Hi folks, welcome back to the Amazing Education Channel, where it's about the words, it's about the ideas, it's not about the video, because all I have is my phone. I don't have a good, amazing camera. So anyway, please like, thumbs up, and subscribe if the ideas help you. Now this video today, it's March 2022. It's about, is the United States at the end of its empire? And are we going to go into permanent decline? And so your, whatever retirement investments you might have, savings, even if you're a homeowner and counting on that, are you going to head into a declining future poverty, or will you be fine, or will you do well in retirement and in the years to come? So, well, it's a good question, because just about any empire, they do go through cycles. There's the rise and the fall, the rise and decline of the Roman Empire, the British Empire, any empire that you want to think about throughout history, the Assyrians, or the even the Indus Valley civilization, which sort of disappeared long before the rest of the world was writing history books. Things can go up. Even the Egyptians, the Egyptian Empire, it controlled a lot of the world, and then finally got taken over by the Romans after, of course, being invaded by many other countries. So now, since the end of the World War II, the United States has been quite considered to be an empire, although in a bit of a different way. But we do have territories. We had the Philippines, which it was very wise. We ended up giving the Philippines their own system, and same thing with Japan. We wrote the Japanese Constitution. But Japan is in many ways an independent country, and we've done this, but we've maintained military bases. So we have bases in Asia, including Japan, and so in a way it's military, but we allow those countries to run themselves primarily, pretty much. And however, it's very expensive, and what happens is, at least in the United States, we have a social decay, because the last Great War, it's hard to call it great, but large war, World War II, saw the era of, women, they can't be taking care of the children. We need daycare and childcare, and the women should be out there working. And so we're going to have electric appliances, to take care of many of the chores. And so, it cuts down on the time at home. And so we have both husband and wife, or father and mother in the workforce, not taking care of the children. Then we see that we've got the highest incarceration rate in the world here in the United States. Well, why do you have that? We've got the highest divorce rate probably in the world as well. So families are not happy, they're not getting along, not staying married, not taking care of the children. And what are you going to have in society? You're going to have children that are really uneducated socially, economically. They don't understand what it takes to have good relationships and have good home economics. And in many cases, it's not even taught anymore. It used to be taught in schools, and but at least in the public schools I'm aware of, and I am a teacher. I don't see my students studying economics at all until possibly they get into college, and then there's a chance. But so that if you don't understand the economy and how it works and how money works and how to be financially responsible, it turns people into dependents. They depend on taking money from people who can produce it through government. And you should listen to Milton Friedman on that topic. He's a wonderful speaker. It's Milton Friedman. And he's not 100% perfect, but he's pretty much on target about, he makes one point that, the government systems often, in many cases, are taking money from people with lower incomes and lower net worth, or basically the poor and lower middle class, and taking it through taxation and other means and giving it to wealthier people, for example, through Social Security, and of course through inflation, which is the money printing. It's an increase in the money supply because government and the Federal Reserve agree to print too much money. And who gets the money first? It's the people that borrow the money through the Federal Reserve System. So the wealthy bankers and the developers and other people who are hooked in to the system, and of course government. And of course they would say, oh yes, but we're doing it for the benefit of people, developing housing and infrastructure like roads and shopping centers and highway systems and so forth. They can say that, but who gets the money and who has the huge profits and the high salaries? It's of course the wealthy and the people that control it, and somewhat the connected government folks, although not many of the people who are connected in government make the millions and billions. So anyway, so we have this going on where people are dissatisfied and the poor are being taxed, and secretly taxed through the inflation and the money printing by the Federal Reserve. And so then of course they're going to vote and choose for redistribution. It pushes them away from the idea of work and save and be frugal and be wise with money into how do you take from others. And that's a huge problem with, unfortunately, the wealthy started off. They figured out a way to take through income tax, which punishes people for working more and earning more through, if they have certain types of jobs. But if they're a rich property owner or land developer, then maybe they're not paying taxes as much, not paying the same percentage in taxes. But just a regular wage earner, well, those are the ones that get really hit with the taxation and the Social Security payments and other things compared in proportion to their income. That doesn't mean that the wealthy people and the land developers don't pay any taxes, but some of them, it's a very small percentage. And so Milton Friedman's point is that we have, through the employment tax and Social Security, it's called regressive, meaning that the wealthy people pay less overall and the poor people pay more, when the wording and the original concept was to help out the poor. But that's really not what it does. It ends up transferring money to the better off. And people say, well, a rising economy helps raise all the boats and everything, but well, with the increase in prices, and that's caused by inflation of the money supply. So people say inflation and they say, look at the consumer price index. Well, yes, that's sort of not exactly a perfect way to measure inflation, but it's one aspect of inflation caused by too much money printing. If you had less money, less dollars being printed out there, you would have reduction in prices. Prices would go down. Same thing happens when new technology makes producing things easier, and prices will go down. Prices can also come down and everything will be cheaper. People will be wealthier when we reduce population by reducing family size. So you have fewer children, and there's over time we have more space, more land available for each one of us, and there's more land for growing food, for housing, and so on. And we're not headed in that direction, but we're very close to reducing our population, and we need to do that. Issue is we keep growing our population through immigration, but some countries have gotten it right, so their populations are reducing, so the housing and land and other resource costs can come down, and they won't be overstressed, hopefully, in the future, although many people are overstressed because things are so expensive. But in the future, it would be great if things become less expensive and we don't have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and die young from the stress and the cancers and the heart attacks because our health is not so good because we're working too much. And we don't have natural lifestyles that we've evolved over millions of years to thrive with, walking around and doing small amounts of physical labor, hunting, gathering, and planting by hand, and so on. We don't do that anymore, but that's what our bodies have evolved to be healthy with, most of us. Of course, everybody's an individual. But anyway, so in the future, yes, people will evolve to be healthy just sitting around, I'm sure. And there are people like that right now with, very few muscles. If you look at the older civilizations in Asia, you have very thin people with very little muscle, and but they can work long hours and keep going, and they often live in cities, and they could have lived in cities for thousands of years, and they thrive under the low physical effort lifestyle, and they don't have the huge muscles of the places where you have larger distances to travel every day, and maybe steep hills to climb and heavy things to lift. You got the city lifestyle, which can be a lot easier. And so people evolve, but right now we've had a huge change in the United States from mostly agricultural, so farming lifestyle with its very heavy physical requirements, to a sedentary driving around and studying and doing well in school lifestyle. But not everybody does well in school, and our bodies sort of clog up. Our arteries get clogged up sitting around trying to eat the meat and the high protein and high sugar foods that we loved as farmers, and our grandparents and their grandparents needed. But we no longer need all these calories, but we have the bodies that are designed for that. So with our modern lifestyles, we have a decline in health, we have a decline in the family, and yes, so it makes sense. We also are overspending and, unfairly redistributing the wealth, and young people are voting for collectivism, socialism, and saying, oh, look at how capitalism has failed. Well, we always had a mixed economy. It was not capitalism. Pure capitalism is very hard. It's maybe almost as mythical as communism, but it might be 100% better, where, protection of individual rights to the maximum. If you have property, nobody can take it from you. And if we had a peaceful world, that would work. What war often does is make the clear choice, like, okay, well, do I take from my country folk against their will to fund the war so that we all survive, and so violate property rights just to protect human life, or not? And so with war and competition between empires and nations, we always come to support government that has the power to take what you've got. The old saying, they've got what it takes to take what you've got, and people support that, and people support self-sacrifice. That's right, meaning dying to protect others, and that, like your family or something. It's you could argue it's evolutionary, it's Darwinian, that in certain instances, certain situations, that for an older person to die defending the younger people, and so the younger people can continue on having children in the future, that's survival of the fittest. And as a group, the group that supports taking the wealth to defend the entire group or nation or country, that's the one that would succeed. And if a country says, oh no, if we all die and get taken over, at least we haven't stolen any property from our neighbors, and we haven't forced our neighbors' children or our children to fight and die for us, so we didn't violate their rights, but we get overthrown. So and then maybe even more people will die. So that so that's why we often support self-sacrifice, and we regard those people as heroes that die in the wars. And so it's like survival of the fittest. If we choose who's going to take the bullet or take the risk and die, but it's a very dangerous thing. We might actually be better off if we just say, okay, we're going to sell bonds to defend the country, and we'll pay you back when things are peaceful. And so we're not going to take property, and we're going to have a voluntary workforce, a voluntary army or military. And that might work in a lot of situations, and maybe only the worst situations would revert back to the old way of drafts and taxation. So we have yet to try capitalism in its most pure form, and it might be a wonderful thing, especially if we have sort of a neighborhood of the world where the countries get along like peaceful neighbors. And then we could try capitalism one time, and they say the United States is a great experiment, but we've gone very much mixed economy with many aspects of socialism, like public schools and huge central government, which is dragging down the economy. So the answer is yes, we're being dragged down, and maybe we're better off not being part of an empire, and the economic growth could decline, and so your investments and everything is very possible. They might not do very well, especially in the next 5 years, because they're overvalued right now, so they may not do well, and in the next 20-30 years, yes, we could have a huge decline as we move away from fossil fuels. So we're taking care of the environment in a much better way by reducing pollution. So cancer and the 8 to 10 million deaths each year from air pollution worldwide could go down as we move to renewables and solar and wind power and other things. So we could get better. Even though economically people have less money. But we need to maybe get back to smaller houses, walkable cities, so you don't need to drive around and use so much energy, and that will save money, and have smaller families and reduce our population. As I said before, that will save us money as well. And so we could be fine, and with technology making work a lot easier and production easier, we could also still be very well off and have more time to get out exercise, swim, and ride bicycles, and walk, and be healthier. And you've got to make that individual decision and choice for yourself, so that you're not driving so much, and you're eating healthier food, maybe even growing your own food to avoid the toxins and chemicals and chemical fertilizers, which are going to be more expensive. If you grow your own food, you can save money and eat healthier food, maybe, and avoid the pesticides and fungicides and other toxins which might be in your food and may cause you health problems in the future or currently. But anyway, be healthy and get away from addictive substances and sodas and caffeine, and just do the research and do it now, because don't say nobody warned you that you would have declining health if you work too much and if you don't eat healthy and don't exercise properly. You're being warned right now. Your health might be okay right now, but if you feel pressured and stressed, and you're not really eating what's best for you. If you're eating at restaurants, believe me, that's not the best for you. You could run into health problems very easily, and then you'll say, oh my gosh, I should have been eating healthy and not working so much and not spending so much, and then I wouldn't have lost my health, because you lose your health, and then it's hard to say much else matters, or much else is more important than your health. You can be very wealthy or semi-well off or middle class or whatever wealth status you have, but it doesn't matter if you can't enjoy it. And if you're not there, or you're not able to move, or you're on medication and you're feeling sad and bad and very stressed out, it's just not worth it. So get back on the bikes, ride those bikes, and there you go. You'll feel a lot better. Avoid dangerous sports where you get injuries, football, soccer, hockey, because you have pain for years and years, perhaps, and also heavy lifting, mountain climbing, rock climbing, and motorcycle riding. Avoid these dangerous things, and you should be better off. Okay, take care of yourself, and hope you're better, and don't worry so much about the decline of the United Empire. We would be better off just being more individualistic, and getting away from the dangers of socialism and communism, which are even worse ways. It's like the bear killing a sheep or deer, with most people being the deer and the communist government being the bear. That's what we don't need. The dog eat dog of capitalism is much better chance of survival and doing well. Even though it's not easy, we always have competition. Okay, take care. Thanks. Like and comment and subscribe, and check out all my other videos by clicking on Amazing Education Words. Thank you.